All right, so by now you've all seen the news. It's been almost 12 hours since it was announced, but my team was involved in a pretty significant trade today, and we now have acquired the services of one Yannick Ngakoue from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is going to be sort of my reaction to that because it's a pretty significant trade involving a pretty significant player, and it's my team, so I figured why the hell not? Let's do something different. So the opportunity definitely presented itself for the Vikings to get an edge rusher, and unfortunately, we were not able to retain the services of one Everson Griffin because he has now left in free agency. He decided to sign a contract that, according to what I heard, was pretty similarly offered to him from the Vikings, but he chose to go to Dallas. So he will now be with the Dallas Cowboys this season, and he was a really great player for us, and I do wish him well, and I hope he continues to be a really great player in his new environment. So that opened up a spot on the defensive line where we have suffered a lot of losses. I mean, the defense as a whole was just gutted in free agency this year. We lost, a year ago, we lost Sheldon Richardson. We lost Linval Joseph this year. Of course, the secondary with Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes. We're going to be very young on defense this year, and it's not entirely a bad thing, but it's a lot of new pieces. So, and then one of the more significant ones was Everson Griffin. So in the draft, they didn't try to address that hole in the defense right away with their draft picks. They waited until I believe it was the fifth round where we finally took an edge rusher, and that was DJ Wanham from South Carolina. And when they picked him, I think the fans were looking at him with like rose-tinted glasses because there was a lot of immediate apparent comparisons to Danielle Hunter, go figure, because people were saying that they were sort of similar coming out at that time from college. So which I think we probably should have waited before we gave an unproven rookie that kind of praise because Danielle Hunter is a very, very, very good pass rusher. But it's going to remain to be seen what is made of DJ Wanham because now he'll be regulated to depth duty, which is totally fine, which I think is probably the best case scenario for him is to get a chance to learn behind guys like Ngakoue and Danielle Hunter. And now we have pretty good depth on the edge rusher position because, of course, we have Wanham and the kid that we got out of Michigan State, Kenny Willick. So very good news today, but this does, of course, impact a couple of things that, and I kind of wanted to talk about that briefly. And those things are we now are in a situation where we have no cap space. So this is going to require somebody that is currently on the roster to be restructured or straight up cut. And I don't think we are in a position to cut any more talent. Because that is seriously going to hinder our chances if we're making a serious run at the Super Bowl this year because the window is closing. There are some critical key defensive parts of this defense that are getting old, aka Harrison Smith. So I don't think really just kicking someone to the free agency curb is going to be the smart move. So I think a restructure is probably imminent. And one of the reports that I read, one of the likely candidates could be Riley Reef. So we'll see how that plays out. And then there was another good point was brought up by one of the Vikings beat writers was this impacts the Dalvin Cook situation because with the zero amount of cap space that we now have and the cap space that we're going to have to create, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot left to get Dalvin Cook signed to an extension, and he is entering the final year of his rookie deal. And he does want a new contract. I believe it's the final year anyway. Let's see, he missed the first season. He was really good last season. Now, this is the third year of his rookie deal. I'll have to look it up afterwards. But either way, Dalvin Cook has signaled that he wants a new contract. And it kind of looks more and more like, as the days goes on, that he's likely going to take the Le'Veon Bell approach to this season. And I think there's a realistic opportunity that he sits out for the whole year and then he goes and gets his new contract next year. So that is where we're at with that. And I think it would be unfortunate to lose Dalvin Cook, but as we've seen time and time again in the NFL, that running backs have become expendable and teams are not willing to pay a premium. And I think this is one more example where the Vikings knew that their star running back wanted a new contract. They were hesitant. According to reports, talks broke down a couple weeks ago, and they decided that there was another position that they urgently needed to fill, and they decided to trade for Yannick Ngakoue. And he's going to take a significant portion of the salary cap next year when they do sign him to a long-term deal. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of money left over for Dalvin Cook. And in my opinion, it would. I understand it's a business move, and like I'm always rooting for the player to get get their contract, get the most money that they possibly can, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the next game, the next week on the practice field. So get it while you're able to. Having said that, if Dalvin Cook would end up being on another team next year, I wouldn't be entirely heartbroken, because we do still have a good depth at the position with Alexander Mattison and Mike Boone. And then we could always get another running back in the draft next year. Not that there's going to be a home run like Dalvin Cook was in the second round, but I think running backs are replaceable, and that's not a criticism of Dalvin Cook or any of the running backs in the league. That's just the reality of where we are in the current climate of the NFL and how they view their personnel when it comes to the 53-man roster. So that is where we're at. Very excited to have Yannick Ngakoue as the other bookend on this defensive line. So I think we're going to have a terrorizing pass rush this year. And once we shore up the interior of the defensive line, of course, Michael Pierce opted out this season. I think it was going to be, I think next year, if we play our cards right, get a solid defensive tackle for the 3-tech position, we can be one of the more terrorizing defensive lines in this league. So very excited for the future holds. Excited about this trade. Didn't have to give up a lot. It was a second round and a conditional 5th, which I think I heard can eventually become a 3rd if things go well for Jacksonville. So that's where we're at. Pretty good trade. Yeah,